Alright, let's get back into World End Economica, shall we? Alright, I think when we last left off, there was some good old experience in the church. Ah. Alright, let's continue reading. Morning. The first thing I did was confirm that I could survive another day. I figured I'd inspect my things and decided to look for the bag I was clutching before. But when I realized it was gone, a shiver went down my spine. I sprang to my feet, but then when I realized I was in bed, I suddenly remembered what happened last night. Oh, that's a nice room. Little lamp, bookshelves, chair, a bed, a nice-looking, bright-looking windows, that's for sure. What happened last night? This wasn't a booth in a dodgy internet cafe, but a house connected to a church managed by a strange woman named Lisa. It had been a long time since I'd been able to sleep in a place where I could stretch out my limbs. It wasn't so bad to wake up without being in pain. Good morning. You're up early. Still in the worn-out old clothing I'd borrowed last night, I walked into the living room where Lisa was sitting in a corner with a computer. Looking at the book-like organic display, it didn't look like she was just messing around. Except for Sundays. I usually get up around now. You're pretty disciplined for a runaway. I'm impressed. So his name is Hal, instead of Yoshi. I'm impressed. It's none of your business. Lisa shrugged her shoulders, turned back to the display, and hit a number keys before standing up from her chair. Do you want breakfast? Judging from your name, your parents must be Japanese. Oh yeah, you already told me that. I wonder if I have any rice. Even with that said, I didn't really have any appetite. That's alright. I've got a chocolate bar in my bag. I want some coffee. When I said that, Lisa looked surprised. Her beautiful almond-shaped eyes widened and seemed frozen in place. As long as my eyes have the black in them, I will always try to have three real meals a day. Your eyes aren't even black. No kidding, her eyes are green. It's a figure of speech. I looked away in disdain like a spoiled brat. In the end, Lisa prepared some bread, bacon, and eggs. Ooh, bacon and eggs. That's delicious. A long time ago, the folks on Earth couldn't have imagined journeying beyond their planet and still being able to eat the same things there that they did at home. In other words, they imagined food to be some strange colored supplement in a tube with who knows what kind of vaguely food-like nutrients in it. Sure, you could find stuff like that, but immigrants were surprised to find out that things on the moon's surface seemed really no different from Earth. I didn't think too much about it. Do you have a net connection here? To me, a net connection was more important even than a silicon dioxide factory producing fresh oxygen. Oh, fuck no. Fresh oxygen is important in this world. Theoretically, no matter where you were in this lunar city, you should be within range of a wireless signal, or so the plan was originally. For areas where the cost-benefit performance of maintenance was high, if the relay station broke, things would just stay that way. I wonder in this game they have internet cables. Besides, if you looked around, you can find public institutions with terminals free to use. So places with no wireless reception carved out the area like Swiss cheese. If I couldn't use the net here, I would have to find a place like the Big Bowl Cafe again. However, I was hopeful because the computer Lisa was using was connected to the endless sea that was the net. What, are you some kind of net addict? Given that I also slept at that net cafe, I suppose you could say that I was. However, as I turned on my mobile PC, I was lost as to how I should respond. It wasn't against the law to say that I was trading stocks as a miner. From that point of view, it wasn't a problem to just say so. The problem was that I was raking in the cash by normal standards. Even for the 6-hour session, this appeared to be a lower income area. Did the inhabitants here earn about 1,000 mules a month? 2,000 mules? Or better yet, did anyone else hold down any steady work? It wasn't very clear if this church had any money. A good poker player never shows his hand, or so they say, so I should assume that they had some hidden away monetary reserves. I lowered my head like a turtle as I spoke. Something more important than even a name, perhaps? Lisa didn't even persist in asking my real name. At my words, Lisa's hand slowly stopped and she looked right at me. Looking at her calm but displeased face, I was ready to say that I was enraptured by the pursuit of money. It isn't anything illegal, right? And the words that came out after that were those that I was sure would let me off the hook. That's definitely not the case. You have my word. In that case, I won't ask about it. That was unexpected. Lisa seemed to mouth those words a number of times. She smiled in slight puzzlement as she spoke. Boys are creatures who die without secrets. In my heart, I screamed out against being treated like a child, but were my... Oh, sorry. But were my lips to move, I would sound just like one. I chose to stay silent as I logged into my trading account. Those thoughts had long since been expelled from my mind completely. My concern turned towards the up and down movements of digits and the flow of money it referred to. I feel amazed. The market had fallen into disarray. One particular market on Earth was shaken up, and its repercussions were felt by the financial markets that tied the world together. Apparently it was something about Russia sending forces into satellite countries because of natural gas fields. Typical stuff. With the conclusion of the Cold War, what brought the world together happened in an instant. After the panic of nuclear weapons in a small country in the Caucasus region, dubbed the Second Cuban Missile Crisis, mankind finally took a real look at the situation before them. Although the Cuban Missile Crisis was one of the actions that led to the end of the Cold War, it was also a confrontation between superpowers. In the Second Cuban Missile Crisis, it wasn't a confrontation between superpowers that brought the world together, but a confrontation between anarchic terrorists and the countries of the world. The result was the complete cooperation of the world and the desire to look towards the stars in preparation for another such moment. Everyone knew that there would always be disputes when it came to the utilization of land on Earth. These issues would be pigeonholed into a faraway place above and away. Literally, with the development of the space elevator, major technological breakthroughs were made at breakneck speed during the development of lunar cities. However, just as eventually all memories fade over time, the moon strayed from their original goal as the world's utopia. After being firmly established, much like countries all over the world, it sought sovereignty and independence to the extent of maintaining its own independent military force. Thus, the countries on Earth turned their gaze from the sky to the ground again, having awoken from their dream. This was the gist of what I understood about the history of the world. I knew more minute details beyond this, but delving too deep would make it difficult to see the big picture. My knowledge was entirely tied to stock trading after all. If there were to be a disturbance in some region of some country on Earth, it would probably have a large impact on the people. The people who lived there and the corporations which operated there, but it would have little global impact. And because there would be little global impact, tragedies would continue on Earth. This was something that immigrants from my town, who were coming from particularly dreadful places on Earth, had said, which had left the biggest impression in my mind. Looking down at the Earth from the space elevator, I could see that all the dreadful problems out there grew smaller and smaller, much like the place of my birth. Even to this day, there were places on Earth where missiles fell more than rain did. There was a rise in the number of unskilled laborers wanting to come to the moon, especially those who no longer wanted to live on Mother Earth anymore. The real kicker was that the people of the developed world seemed to know absolutely nothing about the world outside of their borders. Really? Here, everyone more or less knew about these rising problems. When it came to this energetic bunch and their stubbornly resolute mindset, what was hidden eventually became known. Their mantra was, "We will not allow this to become another Earth." It was a great concept. I like more of this. If nothing else, I'd like to continue to partake in free handouts like that. Strangely, even when I was completely focused on stock trading, the more I concentrated, the more another part of me started waking up. It felt like I had two personalities within me. When I sighed after completing my trades, it really did feel like I had logged out of the world of the net. It was the feeling of the two halves of me joining back into one. In the warp speed pace of stock trading, it was like the brakes were hit as gravity and time returned back to normal. It wasn't all that bad, at least, until I re-evaluated the results of today's trades. I've been glued to the screen since morning without stopping to eat or drink, and I was up over 7,000 moles for the day. If there were smooth days, things would go the way they did today, and I'd continue at this pace. It'd been nerve-wracking calculating how things would go from last week. I could feel the fatigue in my body as I fell over from my cross-legged sitting position and lay down. Oh man. Only in this moment was my mind blank. Even in my dreams I'd be handling financial transactions. So this moment was probably more relaxing than when I was sleeping. Even the most effective leaders on Earth holding on to their hegemony were said to spend anywhere from a few minutes to a maximum of an hour sleeping. I was very aware of this. If I were to plan my conquest of the world, it would be unfathomable to waste time sleeping. After all, someone somewhere in the world was working, continuing to effect some change. Hence, sleeping meant to slip a small fraction from the forefront. Even for the goal of conquering the stock market, I had to partition out the limits of my brain capacity. Thus, total control was still a far-out concept. However, one day I would conquer the market, extract endless amounts of money from it, and pile it all together to reach out and journey to undiscovered lands, opening the door to the next destination for mankind after the moon. It was like I stopped my brain cells from relaxing and filled my disconnected brain with a new seething blood flow. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes, ready to get up in one motion. What stopped my movement in its tracks, along with my thought processes, was purely an accident. When I opened my eyes, everything in front of me was all pitch black. No, or rather it was a pitch black cloth. One part of it had a unique and continuous contour to it, while another part appeared to be zigzagging layers of pleats. And beyond that, I could see through a break in the black fabric of what appeared to be some sort of white fabric. It passed nimbly over my head. What came next into my vision was Hagana's face, as if she noticed something suddenly and turned around. "Why did you open your eyes? Are you an idiot?" Those were words that didn't seem out of place, even if you appended it with that. She wasn't acting shy or embarrassed, and apparently she wasn't even angry. Instead, Hagana looked disdainfully at me. It was probably a bad idea to have lain down to rest right along the shortest path to the kitchen from the living room. But even then, shouldn't Hagana be more careful wearing something as defenseless as a skirt? Besides, her lack of shame would make even mannequins look inhibited. Just thinking of that made my advantage to the situation a bit lacking. Without a doubt, finding any excitement in the contents of Hagana's skirt seemed rather like a losing proposition. I'd like to stay a rational person if possible. That was why I got up and returned to my computer screen. "Where is Lisa?" I heard Hagana's voice coming from her direction. She had a white mustache around her mouth after drinking milk, which certainly was quite a feat in nutritional intake and more amazing than the chemical synthesis that created it. Like I'd know. After having her make a fool out of me, on top of having that idiotic white mustache on her face, I found myself rather irritated. After my rather short answer, Hagana showed her disapproval with a raised eyebrow. "Haven't you been here the whole time? Why don't you know?" "Are you an idiot?" I started to feel like every sentence she spoke would have those words tagged silently onto the end. Well, you're a damn hard ass right there, Hal, or Yoshi, or whatever the hell you are. It was true that I'd been here the whole time, but I did not notice her getting up and leaving me behind during my deep concentration. I considered explaining that to her, but I found it to be so annoying that I just disregarded the thought. And in doing so, I heard the darnest thing from Hagana. I was surprised. In fact, you could say that it was as if my brain shorted out, and for a brief moment everything was blank. I turned around and just looked at Hagana with a "what" expression on my face. Hagana looked back at me without any expression on hers, seemingly saying that I was nothing but useless garbage. No matter how much of an effort I was making at being a gentleman, I realized that I was reaching my limit with her. There was no way this absolutely cheeky girl was going to behave. The circuits in my head shifted gear, switching on the adrenaline. My arms and legs seemed to have magically become supple. I swear, if she even said another word, I was going to tackle her to the ground. When it came to inflicting pain without leaving any marks on the face or body, I happened to know a thing or two about that. Oh my god. I am going to come over and kick that protagonist's ass. Fuck you. I learned a lot from Eastern European immigrants who came from unstable countries where the secret police were in full force. I tried some of those techniques on myself, and I experienced hell. The only thought in my mind was the delusion of seeing Hagana's cheeky face streaked with tears, begging for forgiveness. It would be good for Hagana to lift up the lid to the abyss of hell. That would teach her. As I stared at Hagana with an icy glare, something happened that inhibited my rage. I'm back. Lisa returned through a door in the corridor that probably led to the church proper. In her hand was a burlap bag filled to the brim with all sorts of things. It was a city policy to reuse anything that was reusable as much as possible. This led me to believe that her burlap bag was certainly an example of that, given all the multiple patch marks on it. As soon as she entered the living room, Lisa seemed to sense what was going on. Or rather, it would be obvious even to an idiot, what with Hagana silently staring daggers at me. I paid Hagana no attention at all as I turned my attention back to the computer screen. Not with his damn attitude. Hagana. When Lisa called her name, Hagana turned to her like a dog to his owner. You'll kill off brain cells if you stay angry like that. The heck was that? I looked up and of all things saw Hagana nod in agreement. Are you so easily convinced by something said to trick children? As I looked on dumbfounded, Hagana seemed to have given up dealing with me and proceeded to rub her fingers along her forehead. And then she closed her eyes, skillfully pouring milk into her cup, and had a second drink. Before she drank it, she went through this mantra. Calcium appeases anger. Exactly. It didn't seem like she was trying to pull a fast one, but I was stumped as to whether this was all a ploy or not. The only thing I knew was that Hagana hated my guts. I was sure that bit about calcium was a snide remark of me. It wasn't so much that her anger had subsided as it was expressed in a different manner. Well, this guy does not even apologize, or I don't know what the hell he did to piss her off. Oh, what the hell? So, as was expressed in a different manner. Hagana finished her milk, then watched Lisa throw her groceries into the refrigerator. Lisa, auditorium key. Huh? Oh, didn't I give it to you? You didn't give it to me, and I also checked everywhere just in case. The only other possibility was that Lisa still had it, or he stole... Oh, right, hold on a minute. With expert skill, and before Hagana even lifted a finger to point at me, Lisa went into action, searching her pockets and burlap bag. It was apparently hidden away in her wallet. This always happens when I make a habit of putting slim items in my wallet. Will you have enough time? Even if I'm late, I will have to precisely explain everything. The fact that it was Lisa's fault, not mine. She said it without even skipping a beat. It wasn't something one would be happy about, but as Lisa was unfazed by her words, it looked like this was fairly normal. That's true. Well, you better explain my screw-up clearly then. Yes, a simple reason. Hagana said that as she took the key and turned away. The hem of her skirt turned lightly in sync with the graceful movement of her long, beautiful black hair. Her footsteps faded as she left the living room, and I could hear the door to her room close. Left there, Lisa sighed with relief, then let out a strained laugh as she looked at me. Soon after she closed her door, I heard it open and close again as Hagana returned to the living room. In her hand was a small black bag. "I'll be on my way." "All right, see you later." Hagana only talked to Lisa, and without a single word to me, she left through the hallway. Or rather, her whole cold glance at me seemed to say, "Oh my, you are still here?" It would appear that Hagana had identified me unconditionally as her enemy. She really is a bit of a tough girl to deal with. It seemed that Lisa's mutterings weren't giving me out as being at fault, but rather were somewhat supportive of me. "A bit?" Those were the first words out of my mouth. "Just a bit. She really is a good girl." Is that just a standard line to say for someone that has issues? Lisa put a hand on her cheek as she looked down with a somewhat cold expression in her eyes. I'm not someone cold-hearted like you, I would think." She's right. I mean, at least Lisa is like one of my favorite characters that has a nice personality on the most part. I don't know about Hagana. She's either tsundere or something. Okay already, you don't need to be angry. That's better. Lisa smiled from ear to ear as she folded her empty bag carefully. "Well, what should I do? Did you want to have dinner earlier?" "Huh?" I gruffly retorted at the question I wasn't expecting. "You couldn't really skip out on lunches now, could you? In fact, you didn't even really answer my question at all. What have you been doing?" Judging by her surprised face, I could see that she wasn't trying to cross-examine me. I scratched my head and just mumbled the response. "That's fine. I'm going to make dinner, but what do you want to do? You want to eat here? Of course, it is cheaper than eating out, but I make no guarantees about the taste." You better not make such bad jokes. I wanted to respond instinctively, but going out now to find a place for food was just as much of a pain. If nothing else, I didn't have many qualms about that anyway. If you are offering food, then here's fine. I don't want to deal with the cops anyway. Yeah, fuck these asshole cops. As long as it isn't poisonous, I'm fine with it. Not a problem, but if you want to eat now, I'll start cooking then. Well? Asshole cops. Well, not a problem, but if you want to eat now, I'll start cooking then. Well... Huh? Well, wouldn't it be a pain to have to cook multiple times? That is true, but, well, that's a surprise. Didn't think that you'd be concerned. I might have run away from home, but that doesn't mean I'm some sort of uncivilized delinquent. Lisa lightly sighed at my insistence. That sounds like something a common thug would say. Oh, shut up. Regardless of whether I cook now or later, I'm just letting you know that Hagana will be home late. Actually, when I am not watching for her, she doesn't properly feed herself, so I was planning on eating with her. However, after seeing what happened earlier, I kinda wonder if you are the same as well. It would appear that there was some great animosity towards me from Hagana. I had no idea what had gotten her panties in a bunch. Did I cop a feel the first time I met her? You probably did when you first met her. I don't really remember it all, but she didn't really have much a cop to feel from as far as I could tell. Of course, it is my intention for all of us to sit at the dinner table in friendship. That came out of my mouth without thinking. Such a calm, pacifist opinion isn't what I want to hear. Well, a ball that falls to the ground hits with the most force at impact, but things eventually subside, do they not? Such approaches solve many a problem. By my personal philosophy, I wanted to protest, but I felt relieved somehow. I was thinking it was something like shaking hands as a way of reconciliation. That would be fine too, believe it or not. I look at things pragmatically. That would be a big help. After I said that, I took a deep breath and returned to the subject at hand. I wouldn't mind eating earlier. Well, alright, I'll get to it then. Thank you. At my sudden politeness, Lisa giggled to herself like a spoiled brat. I don't know. Why not? Let's end it here. It's only like 25 minutes, but yeah. But I'll continue if I can do it a little bit more longer this time. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. Like, comment, and subscribe, and see you guys later. Have a good one.